Hello there everyone and a warm welcome. Today we'll be going over the results of a character popularity survey for the Crash Bandicoot series, as well as a handful of Spyro the Dragon characters who crossed over in games like Crash Team Rumble and Crash Fusion. So that can include the likes of Spyro, Hunter and Allura, but not the Sorceress or the Trolley Trouble Bird, because we all know the latter would win this hands down, it wouldn't even be close. There were more than 600 votes to consider across 75 unique characters, plus a handful of even more unique suggestions that I couldn't count towards the rankings, but I'm happy to share them anyway for the laugh. Your days and mine need all the more brightening from it. This video was heavily inspired by Regular Pat and his Kingdom Hearts survey videos. Comparably, his surveys had a much larger sample size, more characters to choose from, and also his videos are a lot more funny, let's face it. But the opinions I've collected come from a widespread amount of the Crash community, from Reddit to Discord to Twitter. So despite the smaller vote count, I hope it can still be considered reliable. Any characters were fair game, from mainstays to small enemies and NPCs. When some people voted, they asked for their characters to be sourced from a particular game, such as Twinsanity or the Naughty Dog era. For the sake of this survey, the characters were bunched together, but in the future I would be more than happy to redo this survey if there's enough interest in the comments, and maybe separate each generation of character accordingly. We'll see how this goes. Anything to do with Crash is as unpredictable as the Bandicoot himself. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to start with the characters who only got a single vote to their name. This is also where a vast majority of the dud votes, that is, characters who can't be accepted towards the rankings, fell into. So watch out for those, they can be rather interesting. We'll put all these low-ranked characters in alphabetical order, starting with Activision. No. Baby Coco and Baby Crash, both of the cute marketable characters, only got one vote each. And I should thank my lucky stars that nobody voted for the abomination that is Baby Tropy. Baby T, the lowest ranking of the rideable animals on this list. A shame, but we should be grateful he made it at all. Rest in peace, squashy alien dog thing from Crash 4. The Bad Mojo Milking Machine from Mind Over Mutant. And I hate the fact that I had to read that name out loud, so... Brat Girls. When I first saw this, I thought it was a joke vote, but it turns out they're common enemies in Madame Amberly's evil school from Crash the Titans. I probably blocked them out of my memory on purpose, like most of the Titans. Crunch, 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 and Crunch. Get this guy a nice cooling drink because lordy is he thirsty. Eel Captain. Not many regular enemies made the cut, but this was one of few to pass the test. Good for him. Although the more I look at him, the more he looks... old. Eels. I always wondered why games and films tend to portray eels as vicious man-eaters, when in actuality they're noodle puppies of the sea. Maybe this guy got the sympathy vote, in which case I approve wholeheartedly. Evil Crash, and he's being kept separate from fake Crash because he's his own separate entity. In hindsight to Crash Twinsanity, he waited a strangely long time to make himself known when Cortex was cuddling him. Maybe he only rampaged because the cuddles stopped. Ganasty Gnork, who must be feeling chuffed to bits that he got a vote and not Ripto. This guy literally became a villain because he was called ugly, we've all been there. Golden Queen. This is apparently a Skylanders character. I initially thought of a Wario Land boss. And while Crash himself has crossed over into Skylanders Imaginators, I'm afraid the reverse isn't true, so with my apologies. Hunter. He's got claws like this, teeth like this, and he gets votes like... oh. Kapunawa. One of only 2 Quantum Masks to find her way onto the list. And I can see why, she has a very fun personality for what little screen time she gets. If the sample size were bigger, I think she would have done better. Little Norm of Nitro Kart fame, in case you were wondering when Crash started to punch mimes. And don't worry, his big brother hasn't been left off the guest list. Madame Amberly, a character from Twinsanity who sits in a rather strange place for me. On one hand, she's part of the era of Crash where things got a lot more dumb and silly. I mean, being headmistress of an evil public school is pretty darn silly. But on the other hand, she's a very large and imposing figure with an atmospheric boss battle. Under different circumstances, she could have been a massive fan favorite, but in this survey, she is instead just massive. Magnus, speaking of massive, and this one pains me, he's the pinnacle of Toys for Bob's Elder Dragon redesigns in Spyro Reignited. We did see a Magnus statue in Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel, but I can't count that. Long-term fans of my videos will know that I always wonder a certain something about Magnus. Why can't he exist? The Master Crystal. The voter argued that the crystal was in fact sentient because it was able to have slave crystals. Nice try. Mr. Crumb. One vote for this guy still feels like a massive victory of its own. For those who don't know, Mr. Crumb was the antagonist of a Tiger Electronics LCD handheld game and was spontaneously revived for the mobile game Crash on the Run. His design is so cool, but sadly he chose the worst possible game to make a comeback in. Better luck next time in another 2 decades. Pyro, aka the Mark Hamill mask, and the only one of the elementals to make it onto the list. He's my favourite of those masks too, and he's a nice throwback to days when celebrity actors in games were unexpected and natural, not at all forced. Shout out to Hamill's excellent acting, and while I can't play the clip here for worries of getting into legal trouble, you gotta love when he points out that Crash's fur looks flammable! Robot walkers, jellyfish dudes from Crash 2, they're weirdly cute. Does anyone else miss how Crash 2 had enemies that you could only slide into to defeat? Wait, what's that sound?
Yummy!
Sharks, somehow less scary than the Rusty Walrus by a nautical mile. Silver relic, wait, silver? It's clearly platinum, peasants, but also this relic because of Crash Bash. Sludge, one of many mutants that Crash can jack and take control over in Mind Over Mutant, the sole one to get a vote. Sora, oh you cheeky so-and-so. I know I said the video was inspired by regular Pat's Kingdom Hearts video, but that doesn't mean it is a Kingdom Hearts video. He did well enough on his own poll, thank you very much. Fish. The Nintendo building the Crash mascot storms. Of all the creative dud votes this list could have had, I certainly wasn't expecting this one. You get points for the idea, but I still have to do this to you. The penguin who gets shot by Cortex when the check bounces. May he rest in peace. Pieces of fish. The red gem. Learning how to collect this thing early and skipping the secret snow-go route is one of the crown jewels of satisfaction in Crash 2's already impressive treasure trove. Sadly, the gem has yet to be anything more than a collectible, so sorry. The Roo that is blue, the Roo that isn't Rilla, and Dr. Roo. One of my rules for the poll was no duplicate characters, to which this guy tried to sneak around like he's got the Wrath of Cortex sneak shoes on. Evidently, he didn't succeed, just like the concept of the sneak shoes. The tiger. And closing out the one vote, the Yeti from Crash Tag Team Racing. The dioramas from this game were already a crazy venture, but this Yeti stands out for not just appearing for 3 different depths, but for them being oddly detailed and morbidly crunchy, and not the buff bodybuilder kind either. Now we'll move swiftly on to the 2-vote characters, starting with someone you may have been anticipating, Big Norm, squeezing out just one more vote than his little brother. Despite debuting in Nitro Kart, I sense this guy has earned defenders because of Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. Troll players tended to pick either Big Norm in the regular kart, Tropy in the Champion Kart with Champion decals, or Penta, just Penta. Just as I was writing the script, rumours started going around about a Crash Team Racing sequel. Do you think they'll invite the Norms back? What do you mean, yes? Chick of the Chicken Stew duo from Tag Team Racing. Again, I feel Nitro Fueled had a hand in these votes, thanks to the start of season cutscenes reviving the comedy duo. By the way, if you said both Chicken Stew, they both received a vote, because why not? You can call me out for cheats if you like, they still only got 2 votes each. Go tell it to your bucket of KFC. The Crash mascot from the commercials, our last dud vote, and probably the most understandable one of the lot. Imagine if this was an unlockable costume in one of the Crash spin-off games. This could have single-handedly saved Crash Team Rumble, I swear. Sadly, that prospect is not enough for him to count in this ranking, so goodbye. Elora, another low-ranking Spyro character, eh? I do have to wonder if people read the instructions. She was fair game for more votes, and so were the other characters. Ripto is entirely missing, and Moneybags of all people didn't make the list either. What, you don't remember? He's in the Fusion Game Boy Advance games. In that game, Wumpa Fruit has the same value as gems, which means Crash Team Rumble is all about collecting money. It really is an Activision game, isn't it? Elora's most recent appearance was actually in Crash Team Rumble, where Toys for Bob blessed her with creative wind and healing powers. I hope she can maintain these in Spyro 4, wherever the hell that is. Geary, and no votes for Crunk by the way. Geary is the last of the Nitro Kart bosses and such a cute little character. He hardly seems antagonistic at all. Just look at how he gives Tiny a clean. Bless his brass bolts. Maybe I could have phrased that one better. King Chicken, a very late addition to the roster. He sure is a chicken wearing a crown. I'm honestly not sure what to add to that, except shout out to all the T-posing chickens in tag team racing. Never have I seen such a display of raw dominance. The lab assistant, aka the guys that go... One of the votes was specifically for the one wearing a wave suit in Crash 3 that tries to drown you. I don't know precisely why him, but perhaps that death animation was memorably morbid? It is a scary way to go. Sorry to anyone who might be listening to this to fall asleep, I never claimed to be cozy. Man-traps, one of the first enemies I think of when it comes to the Crash series, and a staple throughout. They've had all sorts of designs, and there's even a professor plant in Nitro Fueled. But I love how Naughty Dog basically decided to improve the original design by painting them all purple and calling it a day. It's like putting on a mustache and fooling everyone into thinking you're someone else.
Good grief, it's you!
Megamix, prominent enough to get their own event in Nitro Fueled and their own track too, but not enough to secure more votes here. Being chased by Megamix is definitely the highlight of the huge adventure though. That janky run animation could make the Rusty Warrior scared.
Come back here!
Oh god, he's back! Stu, the other half of the Chicken Stew duo, and my preferred of the two. He also has my favourite diorama in tag team racing, because that massive impact when he punches Crash is just unnecessarily loud. The Evil Twins, one vote for each I suppose. Fundamentally, they're not a bad idea, Cortex's earliest experiments with mutants plotting revenge against their former master. It's just that they don't do very much evil at all. They sure talk a lot about vice versa reversa devices, but we never actually see the results of their plans. I can't say they're particularly funny either, although one line in particular has aged either perfectly or in the worst possible way, depending on your viewpoint.
Oh, nuts! There's nuts?
Tiny's Lions. I know what these guys are doing here, and even above the one vote category too, cheeky. All I have to say here is, if you know, you know. Lastly, we have Yaya Panda. Yaya Panda? Whatever. Crash Nitro Kart 2's sole representative on this list. A voter specifically mentioned how she'd be a fun sometimes there, sometimes away friend to Coco. I can see that. Apparently, her story is that Cortex, Oxide, and Ripperoo tried to destroy her home. I can see Cortex doing that sure, and maybe Oxide to build his concrete parking lots, but you're telling me that Ripperoo, the goodest boy, dabbles in deforestation. What a rudimentary crime. I know, right? Sapphire Relic quality comedy. Moving on to the characters who secured 3 votes, not quite so many here, there's only 9 of them. We start with Ebenezer von Clutch. I was always intrigued by the fact that not only did we get a robotic good guy in Crash, he's actually powered by gems, and not just any gem, a uniquely coloured black gem. For something so late in the series, that's a really underrated idea. It helps that he's also quite funny and upbeat. He got a second chance in Nitro Fueled, but sadly they didn't bring much of his wit and charm with him. Must be running on AI. Emperor Velo the 27th. The voters didn't specify if they meant big or real Velo, but on a personal level I much prefer his larger form. A friend of mine once compared him to Schwackhammer from Space Jam, and I've held it against him ever since because I can't unsee it as much as I ever lovingly wish to. The first of the famous Crash Team Racing trophy models to make the list is Isabella. It's quite hard to think of much to say about them, so you'll have to forgive me for being brief here. Isabella's credits dialogue states that she went on star in a TV show called Baywaters, which probably means she modelled in a swimsuit. I can't help but wonder if this knowledge would have gotten her more votes. Koala Kong is the lowest ranked of Cortex's original henchmen by a considerably large margin, almost as considerably large as his pecs. I feel like Tiny came along and stole this guy's thunder, but I would have thought his interest in new circus design and his voice in Nitro Fueled would have earned in a few more fans. Maybe people didn't like his racetrack, allergic to colours, that's what it is. Next we have Lani Loli, the highest ranking Quantum Mask, an all-around silly head with anxiety levels that make me look like Captain Courageous. He has a strong start in the game, I just feel like he's got less to do as the game goes on. His ability in Crash Team Rumble is also the weakest of the Quantum Masks, which certainly doesn't help matters. Another of the trophy models so soon, it's Liz. Liz's ending stated that she starred in the Crash Bandicoot equivalent of Playboy magazine and went on to buy a mansion with the earnings. Evidently, she has a lot more fans in Crash's world than here. Uka Uka has free? No, it cannot be! A crazy low position for one of the most intimidating of the Crash villains, and the symbol of the more dark side of Crash's games from the earlier days. Uka definitely loses points for later appearances, such as in Twinsanity, where he's a total pushover. But his debut in Crash Warped, plus his infamous bad ending in Bash, makes me wonder how people didn't cough up more votes for him. Next time, the great Uka will make sure you do it right. Viscount, that's 3 more votes than he had from the Nitro Fueled devs to put him in Nitro Fueled. They were happy to leave the face of the world to not 1, but 2 Rillaroos, and didn't even give Viscount 1 invite. Stings, doesn't it? For all of the many faults of Crash Boom Bang, I appreciate that they tried to create a new villain. He's got a striking visual design too. The problem I find is his motive. He wants to find the super big power crystal, okay fine, but he decides that the quote-unquote smartest individual for the job is Crash. Look, I don't think Crash is dumb, but he's no Professor Layton either. Professor Crash and the Curious Crystal. Lastly, we have him. I'm rather concerned that this guy not only got onto the survey results, but he also got a whole free vote. Even the characters in-universe hate Willy Wumper Cheeks. So, what prompted this? Love to hate? Just for the fun of it? Do you like watching me suffer? Is that it? Is that why we're here? Let's just pretend that last one didn't happen and move on to the 4-vote characters. It won't be too much longer until we get standalone entries. First up is someone better than Hypersonic, Hasty. And it makes me happy to see that even if the voting pool is quite small, Hasty has his fans. He was one of my votes too. It's funny because normally I don't like the character trope of being an up-yourself blowhard. You know, the kind of character to brag and take credit from the others. What a good idea, I'm glad I thought of it. But for all of his confidence and posing, Hasty can back it up with genuine skill. And you also get the sense that he's just a chill guy that's fun to be around. He's cool, he's left a good and friendly first impression. A better impression perhaps than the Iron Checkpoint crate. No, I'm not kidding. In fact, most of you gave reference to a particular variation of the crate, and one of you even said you referred to all of the crate cosmetics. You have to feel bad for everyone who ranked lower than a box. In fact, I feel rather upset too. I mean, a literal metal container with no arms, legs, or eyes can somehow drive better than me. It doesn't even have grey matter, more like silver plating, like a Crash Team Rumble bot. Back to actual living creatures, we have Nash, Jeff the Landshark's bratty cousin. I thought the poor shark thingy would do better, but at least he outperformed his Emperor by double the votes. On an aesthetics level, I can't say I'm too fond of Nash, it's those goggles that break it for me. But on a personality level, he absolutely stands out. He's the only rival in Nitro Kart that the Bandicoots don't forgive and, well, forget. Because in his own words,
I don't care!
What a legend. From a cranky space shark to a simple Earth chieftain, Papu Papu was the very first of Crash's foes, and most commonly remembered as a piece of cake. Perhaps it's because of his status as an early figurehead of boss characters that he's found his fans, but personally I feel like he's improved leaps and bounds in subsequent sequels. From his surprisingly tough boss race in Crash Team Racing, to his very unique battle in Bash, to his funny little belly dancing in Twinsanity.
What have I got? What have I got? What have I got?
Crash's island home just wouldn't be the same without Papu and the hyperactive tribe that he commands. Penguin Yay 1, it's Penta! Who can say no to an adorable little penguin, even if he does have absolutely busted driving stats behind the wheel? He was so popular that he appeared in the Crash Bandicoot manga, with a surprisingly prominent role as a greedy shopkeeper. If Moneybags is ever looking for a protege or a mascot, he knows where to look. Rillaroo is next, and if you said fixed Rillaroo, he also fell under this umbrella. Infamously debuting in Crash Bash and last seen in Nitro Fueled, Rillaroo is a choice, a walking meme who doesn't really embrace his mutant status very well at all. I know Bash had to balance things out on the roster, what with Tiny and Dingodile deflecting to the good side, but really Uka, a smorgasbord of iconic foes in your well, and you fish Rillaroo out of it? Well, the joke's on you, Uka, Rillaroo scored higher than you. The last one to get 4 votes is someone very unexpected to place this highly. Crash Twinsanity is home to a strong variety of characters, some who left a lasting impression on the franchise, some who disappeared as soon as they joined, but few are as funny or memorable as the Skunk. He only gets 15 seconds of screen time tops, ranting about the tropes that make a Crash Bandicoot enemy what they are, in a coarse and loud voice. And did we listen to his plight? No! We pushed him to his death into a pile of explosives. What fools these mortals be. Truly good people walked around the crates and left the Skunk to his own devices. Are you one of them? Let me know in the comments. Okay, we only have one character for 5 votes here. Sneaking back into the list, we have another CTR trophy model, Megumi, the cutesy one in Nitro Fueled. Although you'd be hard pressed to tell in OG Crash Team Racing, the way the ladies get uncomfortably close to the camera and stare into your souls. What do you mean you enjoy playing Sonic games? Megumi apparently invented a Wumpa Fruit scented perfume, which already makes her my favourite of the trophy models. Pushing into the 6 votes category, where things have gotten a bit more busy again, we kick things off by saying goodbye to the last of the trophy models, Amy. Yeah, I'm not too surprised she took the highest rank of the models. If I ever happen to catch any art of any of them, it's usually of Amy. When I think about it, she's very akin to the Torna we see in Crash 4. Tough and forthcoming, she ultimately becomes a racer herself, purely so she can stand on the winner's podium instead. The question now is, will Crash model for her instead? Or maybe Crunch? I strongly suggest much of my audience today would pay to see that. And yes, I see you trying to skip ahead 5 seconds to avoid answering that. Next we have... what is he? Fake Crash has been a staple in the series since Warped, changing sides at the drop of a coin. Protected by Ukaruka in CTR, then confusing the villains of Entranced, and taking a brainwashing bullet for the real Crash. He's even playable in Crash Bash if you live in Japan, but he didn't take any sides. Nobody specifically said why they voted for Fake Crash, but I would imagine it's because A, he's fun to look for in games, and B, he's just plain funny looking. Half the fun of him is the unknown and the bizarre. Like me. Komodo Mo is up next, thereby not faring as well as his slender brother. Somebody voted for the Komodo brothers, as for Chicken Stew, so I've given them both a vote each. It's quite strange now that I think about it, that only Komodo Joe was chosen for Crash Team Racing. A joint boss race could have been quite interesting. That said, both of the bros don't get a pass from me, simply because they've never been a challenge to fight. Not even in Crash Bash, and that game's supposed to be harder than Dark Souls. You know, just like every other Crash game ever made. Mo gets the more interesting ability for my money of swordplay. Too bad it's as easy to dodge as standing still and looking funny, something people like me already excel at in daily life. No wonder I like Crash so much. And then there's Nitrous Oxide. Naughty Dog claimed that they wrote Oxide to purposefully jump the shark as they left the series for other more precursory pastures. And yet not only did Oxide head up one of the most beloved racing games of all time, he got additional opportunities in Bash, Nitro Kart, and even Crash 4. Sadly, he couldn't catch lightning in a bottle twice. For one thing, he's too slow for that. A lot of his appeal comes down to his strangely dark motivations, as well as his acting. I think his OG acting nailed him perfectly. It was simply too hard a hurdle to cross after that, to the point that Bash didn't even bother and made him mute. They didn't even animate his face. When he loses his boss battle, he just stares and accepts his fate. This is definitely the effect of featuring in Crash Bash has on you. On to the 7 votes characters, and a bit of a sour start for this lot. We're beginning with Catbat. I won't lie, I'm quite disappointed on this one. Catbat didn't have the strongest place to debut in Crash Team Rumble, a game only I seem to think is a 10 out of 10 Crash experience. But Toys for Bob did everything in their power to make them memorable and a natural fit to the Crash camaraderie. Expanding further on the idea of one of Cortex's minions going rogue, I adore the fact that Catbat seeks to help others who suffered the way they did. And bonus points for the non-binary representation. Toys for Bob were right of mind to hire a non-binary voice actor. Erika Mari Ishii, please do forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. To top it off, Catbat's actual playstyle and movement in Rumble is both satisfying and ridiculously good fun, diving onto targets from on high, and forcing leftover McDonald's burgers from that one TV advert down their throat. Truly a grim fate. I hope this isn't the last we see of the effortlessly cool hybrid. Moving on from the lean and clean to the mean and green, it's Komodo Joe. It may only be a 1-vote difference in the context of the survey, but I bet a lot more people are familiar with Joe, thanks to Crash Team Racing and his memorable S's when he talks. At some point or another, Joe graduates from the idiot that most spins around like a Beyblade to a sinister-sounding manipulator. I always like how he tries to throw you under the bus when you take his boss key. Feels like a very Simpsons thing to do, am I right? The first of many N-based scientists finally joins the game, with old Egghead N-Trance. You gotta love how this guy is introduced. Tropy is busy reassuring Ukaruka, "Of course my plan to defeat the Bandicoots will succeed. I found this guy while at the post office." Hypnotism isn't a new subject for Crash by the time N-Trance rolls around, and he rather spontaneously appears in Crash Nitro Kart 2, having done something unspeakable to Dingo Doll. He has a wider than average mouth and he must scream. No, I for one think N-Trance is heavily assisted by being in, well, Crash 2 Entranced. His boss fight is fun, although it obviously wears its influences from King K. Rool on its sleeve. And the game prior to fighting him is the best of the Crash series post Naughty Dog and pre-Toys for Bob. Not a bad first outing. If Nintendo ever adds this game to the Game Boy Advance Virtual Console on the Switch, I'll be as pleased as a purple poached egg. And now here's Polar, doing 7 times as well as Baby T. As you've probably already guessed, Polar is not the highest-ranking animal buddy in the series, which to me is immensely surprising. Even though Polar wasn't the first of the auto-running animals, he was the face of Crash Bandicoot 2 demo discs everywhere. Just as fast as the Wild Piggy, yet with more control and a much sweeter face. If I were voting between him and Pura, I definitely would have said Polar, as did Toys for Bob in Crash 4. But hey, that's why you guys have the votes and not me, because my opinion is very, very silly. Not as silly as whoever made the Crash 4 level bears repeating, but you know. The last 7 voter is Spyro the Heckin' Dragon. To go back to earlier, I'm not sure people got the memo on the Spyro characters being eligible to vote for here. I'm sure Spyro is a lot more popular than 7 votes under normal circumstances. Both he and the Bandicoots have been on the best of terms since their earliest possible days, for better and for worse. For better being when Spyro got a nitro-fueled season to himself, a cameo in Twinsanity, and some brand new moves in Rumble. For worse being Crash and Spyro Fusion, also known as Crash Purple and Spyro Orange, also known as Agony Simulators A and B. If this poll gets carried out again, I hope the purple lad does a little better. If not, we'll have to ask Magnus to take over the series instead. Okay, now we're finally breaking away from most of the tie vote characters. We can give this next character a comfortable ranking position as we enter the top 16. In 16th place with 8 votes, it's Pasadena Opossum. Despite dropping into the series from nowhere, she left a positive, vibrant, and happy mark on the roster. Her origins are unknown, maybe she escaped the Cortex Commandos somewhere along the way. Either way, she's loyal to Von Clutch and absolutely loves his non-Crash, possibly a bit too much. But either way, she's too low on this list to reach for those Bandicooties she wants so much anyway. Pasadena has just a way of bringing smiles to faces, and while she isn't the most fleshed out character quite yet, she certainly has the potential to be if revived for a future game. I do have to dock her a few personal points, however, for this line.
2 + 2 equals, cornbread?
Squeaking ahead of Polar by 3 votes, in joint 15th place with 10 votes, we start with Pura. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I never liked the animal riding stages of Warped compared to Crash 2. The music was too laid back, the sound effects were dulled, Pura was considerably slower, and it just wasn't as challenging. But then you get to the end of the level and all is forgiven, seeing those cuddles with this little cereal mascot. Pura also has my favourite character selection animation in Crash Team Racing, which surely must count for something. Besides all of this, it's just nice to see Coco finally have an animal friend, and one who is just as happy to see her. Look at the way he bounces around, it's like his X button is stuck down with Wumpa Fruit juice. Moving on to the other character in 15th place, which is Aku Aku, or Bonus Bob if you're in the UK and used to read PlayStation magazines. He also got 10 votes. Well, that's gratitude for you. The benevolent witch doctor has saved our butts more times than we can remember, and he doesn't even crack into the top 10. See, this is why he hardly helps you at all in Crash 4. It was all your fault. Yes, yours. Aku Aku is one of those rare examples of a little detail in the video game becoming more and more beloved as time marches on. You know you've struck gold for a character when half the fun is trying to figure out what he's saying. When Aku finally received a more major speaking role in Warped, well, he knocked it out of the park. The perfect soft-spoken voice casting, ideal personality, and just the right amount of screen time. He even goes toe-to-toe with his powerful evil brother, which can't have been easy on him to give Crash a fighting chance to take out Cortex. He and Crash are lifelong partners in heroics. It's hard to imagine the Bandicoot family without him watching over them. The ancients would not allow it, for one thing. I'm going to wager most people will be surprised by this next one, but in 13th place, unlucky for her, it's Torna with 12 votes. Split right down the middle for her classic design and her modern design as seen in Crash 4 and Rumble. I know Torna has never been the most relevant character in the franchise until recently, but I also know she has a very passionate fan base. 13th seems entirely too low for her. But if there's any justice in the world, it's that she vastly outranked all of the trophy models. What I like most about Torna is that she's usually at the heart of the darker side of Crash 4's story. She works so much for Crash and Coco's safety, it's rather sweet, and it's emotional to see her panic when the trophies threaten her friends. As for classic Torna, I always appreciated that even though Crash was the one rescuing her, she was clearly the one in charge, lifting him high on the blimp and stealing a mutant bird for them to escape the castle on. She's a go-getter for sure. I can see why she's liked, regardless of the form that she takes. Moving on to 12th place, and again, a rather lowly ranked lady if you ask me, this is Nina Cortex with 15 votes. Not only does she seem oddly relaxed in the voting process, she was absolutely nobody's first choice when voting. Her defenders really showed their hand as the last character they voted for. Nina is an interesting one as far as her quality through the series goes. Her debut in Twinsanity wasn't very interesting in terms of personality, but she's widely considered to have the best level in the game, Rooftop Run.
Tie it to something secure, I said.
That's one crazy bus. Then in Tag Team, she gained the voice and quite a few funny lines, but they were somewhat generic in personality. Next, in Crash Fusion, she regressed to something closer to Twinsanity, but with some demented quotes, as she intends to play with, as in horrifically mutilate, Crash. Finally, she became the main antagonist of Crash the Titans. What an unfortunate game for her to have a big break in. To her credit though, she has great ambitions, just like her uncle, and is almost successful in her plans to destroy the Wumper Islands. Nina is a character who still has a lot to give for the series, if she can find some consistency. Thankfully, the game devs love her too, as she received a very fun Halloween-themed event in Nitro Fueled, and she was almost added to Crash Team Rumble. It would have been amazing to see Toys for Bob's take on her after so much back and forth. Next, we have the man insatiably addicted to his Coca-Cola, even while they make crappy AI adverts. In 11th place with 19th votes, it's the other original villain, Dr. Nitrous Brio. Most of his voters left some friendly comments, one of which wished me a nice day. Thank you. One of you, however, called him the most uncool character in the series. Poor Brio, why don't people take him seriously? Despite the silliness, there was only one person who specifically chose Brio from Mind Over Mutant, which in my opinion is his finest hour. The dude invented Slinkies, he turned recycling evil, he wrote the frickin' Bible, you don't get much more alpha than that. Even in the modern day, Brio has retained his over-the-top mood swings, and the sense that he's just trying to keep it all together, thanks to the excellent vocal performance of Roger Craig Smith. And way back in the PS1 days, he showed his hand early as a sometimes off, sometimes on ally. One of my favourite parts of Crash 2 is how Brio is the one sending all the enemies after you, but is more than happy to team up with Crash on perfectly good terms when he gathers all the gems. Brio has always been surprisingly honest and upfront, even when he's against the Bandicoots. He seems to respect them if the flashback tapes of Crash 4 are anything to go by. When he tries to test his potions on them, he just wants the further science. Cave Johnson would have been proud. I mean, Brio's head does look a bit like a combustible lemon. We finally reach the top 10 and open with a bang, the unmistakable sound of gunfire, because in 10th place is Pinstripe Potteroo with 21 votes. At first, I thought this seemed quite a low placement for Pinstripe. He has one of the most vocal fan bases in the Crash community, but top 10 of any roster is nothing to sneeze at. And may I start by saying, what a great name for a villain. In fact, everything about Pinstripe screams awesome. From his mobster getup, to how he's one of the smartest of Cortex's henchmen, to the sheer glee he experiences when firing his beloved Tommy gun with reckless abandon. Most dislike his first and only boss battle in the series, but I adore it for the atmosphere and vibes, as you desperately duck his gunfire looking for any opportunity to hit back, all while he stunt dodges around the room. To top it off, he returns in Crash Team Racing with an excellent voice.
Have some of this.
Courtesy of Brendan O'Brien, who also initially voiced Cortex, but sadly passed away 2 years ago. Hell of a legacy he left us with, thank you Brendan. Aside from a playable appearance in Crash Boom Bang, Pinstripe has been quite quiet, but there were rumours he was going to join Crash Team Rumble down the line. Wherever he chooses to pop up again, he's sure to leave a good impression. In 9th place at 25 votes, oh yeah, that's the Crunch! Specifically, that would be Crunch from either Wrath of Cortex, Nitro Kart, or Nitro Fueled. Nobody stood for tag team, Mr. Crunch. When discussing this survey with the community, I think a lot of people expected Crunch to place higher, due to the furbait factor. And I had high hopes for him too, for reasons we'll soon discuss, but 9th isn't too shabby. I voted for him too, and it's almost entirely because of his early showings. Kevin Michael Richardson brought Crunch to life, and then some. I adore reform villains in fiction, things like Kovu from The Lion King. Kevin's performance manages to bring out both Crunch's heart of gold and fun-loving side, and his sinister and imposing one. It's a good thing he's on the side of justice, because this man could snap your legs off and use them to prop open his doors if he wanted to. Crunch debuts with a series of mighty-looking bosses, helping to close out the more serious era of Crash. By the time Nitro Kart drives fuel, he's a perfect big brother to Crash. It's sweet to see the two bounce off of each other so well. It's too bad then that in Tag Team, Titans and Mutant, he's turned into a measly parody, which I'm sure cost him some votes. But even then, he still looks the part. Not once in the series does Crunch miss with visual design. He would have been a perfect fit for Crash Team Rumble, especially with how well Toys for Bob did with creating new movesets for characters who never had them before. But sadly, it wasn't meant to be. Of all the characters on this list, Crunch is the one with the absolute most potential for something even greater. I don't say that lightly, he absolutely needs to return in the next mainline game, and I hope someone is watching with the power to make that happen. Before I forget, I actually like Tiny and Crunch as a pairing. I can imagine Crunch being the one to help bring Tiny to the good side. And what do we do when we see a Bandicoot?
Tiny squish.
No. Now this is a bit of a tricky one in 8th place, because now we're on Dr. Nefarious Tropy's time.
You little skunk.
You see, only 3 of the 26 voters specified female or femme tropy as their choice. In the future, if we get more voters for round 2, I'll probably separate the 2 trophies, but for now, I consider them similar enough to put their votes together. And clearly they agree with the way they look at each other. Tropy enters Warp with a great first impression, tantalizingly hiding in the shadows until he steps out with that menacing look. He helps set the pace of the game by not being the final villain, but the halfway point obstacle. His pompous voice and narcissistic, holier-than-thou attitude is perfect considering his choice of opponents are strange and sometimes crazy mutant rodents.
Well, haven't we gotten far for a pair of fuzzy marsupials?
And he does nothing with anything less than maximum effort. Almost every time Tropy is part of the Crash game, he steals the show with flashy and powerful attacks. The exception is Crash Entranced, but you can't win them all. Even when his efforts get cut off earlier than we would have liked, such as in Crash 4, he still manages to achieve a terrifying presence. Defeating him always feels like beating the odds. As for Femtropy, she has an equally pompous nature, but it's easier to see how much she revels in causing misery to the Bandicoots. In this regard, she helps bring back some of the much-needed dark side to the Crash world. It's hard to ignore a character who doesn't just enjoy killing, she revels in dragging out suffering. For a Crash Bandicoot villain, that's pretty darn badass. Tropy is the character everyone loves to hate, just like Crash Bash or Mario Kart World. Soaring into 7th place with 27 of your votes, it's your favourite evil cyborg and mine, Dr. Engine. When I first saw this guy, I actually wasn't too fond of him. Even child me could see he was leaning into the Igor lab assistant thing a bit too much. But then, the little man had the audacity to introduce himself with the best boss battle in Crash 2 by far, and then he did it again in Warp for good measure. In fact, Engine persistently has the strongest encounters in the series, helping to break us away from that ever-growing stigma that Crash can't do boss battles. Nonsense if you ask me. For every one poor boss battle, there's at least 2 good ones, and you can bet that Engine is heading up most of those. I've always found it interesting how we collectively have learnt to ignore the nuclear rockets stuck in his head. One slide against him, and he'll kill everyone in a 50-block radius. Despite his mechanical genius and moment-by-moment danger factor, most people tend to notice the way Engine speaks first. Whether it's the usual calm but calculating Brendan O'Brien, or the completely off his rocker Nolan North, N. Gin always has something memorable to say and do in equal measure. I must apologise for drawing so much attention to the voice actors. That kind of trivia is my favourite to share. Did you know that his modern actor, Corey Burton, also voices Yen Sid from Kingdom Hearts? That's right, N. Gin could officially make you a Keyblade Master. Of course that's how this works, let me have this. On to 6th place with 36 votes and the last female character on this list. Let's face it, Coco was always going to rank highly, though I am surprised she didn't make the top 5. I love how we as the community have accepted Coco when she arrived in Crash 2 as of absolutely nowhere. Polar opposite to Crash in every way despite their being siblings. Whereas Crash thinks on his feet and flicks between hyper and lazy, Coco is more consistent, a smart gal who's always on your side, surprisingly good at kung fu too, whatever happened to that. Coco has jumped from a spunky kid sister personality to a whatever style teenager, and both seem to suit her just fine. I think what helps her stand out is quite simply that her brother is mute. When silent antics and actions can't convey the story, Coco is on hand to do the talking. Because of this, when I think of most major cutscenes and moments in the franchise, I tend to remember what Coco says first, and then how Crash reacts. Coco was created around the time when people were starting to include their families in gaming more. In my case, she was the gateway for my sister to try out some games, and together we completed Crash Bash in co-op mode, a very respectable achievement for a new gamer. She's been just the right amount of girl power for the series from day one, supportive yet capable of beating Cortex on her own. Cute on one hand but curt on the other. I'd love to hear if she helped anyone you know get into the Crash Bandicoot series too. This is it then, welcome to the top 5 voted characters, and if Coco didn't make it here, who could have possibly beaten her? Narrowly missing out on the medal position, though I don't think he minds too much, in 5th place with 37 votes, it's the best bouncy boy, Ripperoo. Roo and Coco spent a lot of time going backwards and forwards in positions, and Roo probably would have done even better, but he unfortunately had the most cheat entries. Repeated names, alternative names, literally type in one letter of his name into every box. I had to throw out a fair few votes, and he still placed 5th, which speaks volumes. The single biggest factor for Roo's popularity of late has got to be Crash Team Rumble, and very much everyone voting said so. Toys for Bob recreated the Blue Sweetie and turned him into something utterly adorable, yet totally demented. They made him a little tubby and gave him a dog-like nature. Just look at this cute little taunt animation that was cut from the game. Everything Roo does has a way of just making you smile. Laughter is contagious. I'm making him sound no better than the Joker, but he's so sprightly and animated you can't help but love watching him. Not to say he wasn't a strong character prior to Rumble, the very concept of an explosives-obsessed failed experiment who attacks with razor-sharp toenails is just pure Crash from the start. Everyone loved him in Crash 2 especially, where he somehow became a professor. Yep, he's better educated than me. And then Crash, well, Roo didn't do anything wrong, Crash just waltzed in and attacked him. I love how a comic celebrating Roo's addition to Rumble shows that Roo is actually incredibly intelligent, he just can't express it. He's equally adorable in Crash Nitro Fueled. I don't know whose idea it was to give him a nightcap, but it works like a dream. Roo may be utterly insane and dangerous, but he's also the most cuddly, bouncy guy in the Crash Bandicoot Rogues Gallery. If he wasn't so busy trying to blow everyone up, I think most of us here would want him as a pet. There was a last-second surge of votes on this next one, took me completely by surprise. In 4th place at 39 votes is Tiny Tiger. You know, earlier I said that Tiny stole Koala Kong's thunder, but he didn't just steal it, he sucked it down like a protein shake. The two were supposed to debut in the same game after all, but Tiny knew better to wait for the better game. He's a good fellow, that Tiny, hates everyone and everything, but a good heart nonetheless. There are 2 things I think make Tiny work. One is that he exudes confidence. Just look at the box art for Warped and that enormous toothy smile. He takes a lot of pride in his muscles, and he's surprisingly versatile and agile too. Like Crash, he's far from the idiot everyone says he is. He's just a bit too aggressive for his own good. He wants you to go squish, so squish you will go.
Tiny say you are what you eat.
The other thing is that every boss encounter against him feels like a true one-on-one showdown. There's no way to undo that beefy body, and both he and Crash are as agile as each other, so it always comes down to outsmarting him. No matter which game he's in, and regardless of the difficulty of the battle, conquering him in a fight feels intense and peak Crash Bandicoot. Tiny's taking every fight seriously, and if you don't too, you'll be squished. Which I know won't deter some of you, but still. One last thing, all 35 votes were for OG Tiny from the Naughty Dog era. Whenever anyone left a comment, it was explicitly requesting that Titan's Tiny be ejected from this mortal plane. Tiny was another character who missed out on the Rumble reworks, and he also missed out on the unreleased Crash Bandicoot game. Gotta love that concept art. I would bet you his weird little loincloth that if that game had released, he would have broken even higher into the top 5, perhaps into the top 3. Alright, quite a large jump in votes here, and our coveted bronze medal is awarded to the world's favourite villainous egghead. 50 votes went to the world-renowned evildoer Dr. Neo Periwinkle Cortex. I have all his games. I'm very happy to see Cortex claim such a high spot. In my experience, he tends to be overshadowed by the other more popular platformer villains, the eccentric Dr. Eggman, for example, or Bowser, who is... Anyway, Cortex fully deserves to stand alongside them. He may lack their size and isn't quite so experienced in timescale, but he's every bit as threatening, funny, and iconic. Your favourite Cortex likely matches when you jumped into the series. For some of our voters, that meant the Twinsanity era, where Cortex was considerably more comical and brought us some amazing quotes and quips. He's an evil scientist, what do you expect? All brilliantly delivered by the talented Lex Lang, by the way. Modern Cortex is no slouch either. It's quite interesting to see a mainstay villain who wants to break the cycle of fighting his arch-nemesis, but equally can't resist trying to gun him down too. But for me, Cortex was always at his best during the Naughty Dog era, and during Wrath of Cortex. This man may seem like he couldn't harm a fly. In fact, his backstory as seen in the Crash Bandicoot Files book makes him sound pathetic, but Cortex has a remarkably high success rate in his plans, brought down only by some last-minute bad luck. He raised an army to take over the world in Crash 1. It was just unlucky that he also gave Crash the power to burn down his castle. He almost gets away with the crystals in Crash 2 to hypnotize the planet, but Crash snags him just meters from planetary doom. If it wasn't for Aku Aku, Uka and Cortex would have easily disposed of Crash in the final battle of Warped. And of course, there's Wrath of Cortex, where Cortex cleverly realizes that taking over the world is the easy part. Killing Crash takes top priority. So, he creates Crunch in the image of what Crash should have been in the first place, an obedient killing machine. All while accompanied by the dulcet tones of Clancy Brown in what I believe is his finest vocal performance all around. Is it just me, or does Cortex have a thing for making muscle-bound minions? Telling, isn't it? Sure, not all of his plans are perfect. In The Huge Adventure, for example, he succeeds in shrinking the Earth down to handheld size, only to shrink himself down to combat Crash, instead of, squishing him with his thumb. But he's otherwise the perfect blend of menacing, malicious, calculating, and funny. At the end of the day, this diminutive lunatic is very capable of conquering the world, and he knows it. But with how popular he is with the voters, I bet most of you wouldn't even mind. In second place, fittingly 1 step and 10 votes ahead of his greatest foe, with 60 votes exact, it's Crash Bandicoot! Everyone and their mother saw this high placement coming, except Crash's mother. He doesn't seem to know his.
I'm telling Mom! If we had one.
Crash is the reason all these other silly heads are here at all. Well, technically that's Cortex's fault, but still. A vast majority of people who voted Crash specifically said from the Naughty Dog era, with some also citing the Crash 4 experience. One of you specifically said Titan's Crash, and I can't say I share your nostalgia, but more power to you. Crash's high placement seems logical, but when you think about it, he has a lot of things working against him. He never says a word, his personality and intelligence jumps between every individual game, and he's not even too fantastical in heroic abilities. He's not the biggest, strongest, smartest, or even the keenest to adventure, but he nonetheless has an endearing reach around the world. He has a Looney Tunes appeal and a lot of bad things keep happening to him, but he soldiers on anyway. He's got a heart of gold, often forgiving many of his enemies, from adopting Crunch to giving his beloved Yo-Yo to his first Nitro Kart rival Crunk, to even teaming up with Cortex multiple times. Crash is certainly not the type to let evil go unchecked though. True, he prefers his idyllic island life, and he'll happily hug the man trying to conquer his island and the world at large. But the moment someone tries to do him or his home wrong, he's ready for action. Some view him as hardly a hero at all, and I couldn't disagree more. Not only have I always admired his heroics, but Crash is one of the sweetest, most lovable gaming icons in our long history of gaming. On a personal level, I agree with the voters on Naughty Dog's era being his finest hour, and I love how It's About Time managed to recapture his vibes from there. However, I also think that Nitro Kart is a very close second. Just look at how Crash sees Tiny and gets serious, but when he realizes he's outnumbered, he plays the silly card to try and get out of it. I never liked how brain-dead Twinsanity Tag Team and Titans made him. His literal opening action in Twinsanity is to bury a shoe. As far as I'm concerned, that side of Crash can stay buried, along with the shoe. He's an adaptable, courageous little guy who keeps finding ways to beat the odds. What makes Crash so successful in this poll, however, isn't just him being the title character, but how every generation of gaming since his debut has found something unique to love about him, and long may that remain. And yet despite the love, he's not the number one in his own survey, goodness me. So who is? Let's see if you've been paying attention, eh? Taking away the gold medal, if in fact it can fit around his neck, the winner, with a massive 62 votes, is Dingodile. Dingodile has some humble beginnings. He wasn't prominently advertised in his debut game of Warped, but from the millisecond he pops in, he gets everything right. Even just the name is perfection. His dialogue and design just scream, "I'm the boss, mate!" The thick accent helps immensely, and not a single one of his battles through the series misses the mark. The blend of his awesome flamethrower with his creative environmental-based battles makes him a blast to face every time. Just before I get though, is it me or is Dingo the first character in the series to truly capture the Australian vibes? Yes, I know all the animals of the OG trilogy are Australian in origin, and Crash himself has a thick Aussie accent in his promo trailer for Crash 2. The less I remind you of that one, the better. But Dingo stormed out of the gate with an even thicker accent, a strong build, and a stark personality that screamed, "Your average day sat on the toilet in the land down under is a tougher challenge than you, mate." That's not to say that other villains don't have strong natures and designs too, it's just that Dingo manages it even better. He carries unexpected levels of character depth, topped off with an ever-endearing visual design throughout much of his history. He loses his way a little bit post Naughty Dog. I need hardly remind you of what N-Trance did to him in Nitro Kart, for example. But everyone knows exactly what Dingo is doing in the number one spot, and they weren't afraid to be vocal about it when voting. It's big, it's belly, it's the Toys for Bob Crash 4 design. First off, just look at him. One of you was brave enough to say you want him to sit on you. Sorry to call you out like that, but with how drastic a visual change Dingo went through, perhaps you can't be blamed. Toys for Bob have had many amazing character designs, but Dingodile is their magnum opus. Once again, we have an example of a reformed villain, a trope I love to bits. Some lament the loss of his flamethrower, but I personally love how the vacuum gun keeps the spirit of the flamethrower, while also showing that he really does want to turn over a new, less violently inclined leaf. All this thick man wants is to open a restaurant in an airport. If he did, I'd buy like 20 tickets abroad and not even board the plane. Just let me into the boarding lounge to dine with him. Who needs Disneyland when you can have Dingo Land? Of course, I do risk food poisoning from his weird and wacky cooking, but that's just another part of his charm. His food may be awful, but it comes from a well-meaning place. Toys for Bob weren't the first to send Dingo to the good guy's side, but they were the first to understand how to make it work. Dingo is, as you can see, very chonky. He's wide and wobbly to give the sense that he still has power to spare, which he's not afraid to use on the likes of Tropy. But he's equally cuddly and friendly, like a local shopkeeper you've known all your life. The moment that he pokes fun at the trophies of Crash and how he defends Crash from Cortex's fallen cargo is all you need to confirm that this hybrid is going to be a staunch ally to the Bandicoots for the rest of time. Toys for Bob took a big risk and received pure reward by taking a character I'm certain would have already placed in the top 5 already and making him timeless. And you know what's even better? They made him fully playable for the first time, and nailed that too. There's just an oomph to his moveset in Crash 4, rushing through densely packed gauntlets like nothing can stand in your way. While in Crash Team Rumble, he acts as a scary wobbly goalkeeper that can barge aside big crowds. So that's a big win for Dingo on the gameplay front too. Congratulations to the lovable chonk for winning the poll and our hearts. And now, we would like to honour our winner with a victory anthem.
Dingo, dingo, dingo!
Poetry in musical form.